Florida was supposed to be different. For decades, the story was simple and seductive. Sunshine, no state income tax, affordable land, and an endless stream of retirees, remote workers, and investors all convinced that Florida real estate was the safest bet in America. The population was always growing. The demand was always rising. And the prices were always going up. That story is over. In 2026, Florida's housing market is not just correcting. It is collapsing in ways that are turning once thriving communities into something that looks increasingly like modern ghost towns. Subdivisions built for populations that never arrived are sitting empty in the Florida heat. Condos that sold for six figures above asking price just 3 years ago are now slashing prices by hundreds of thousands of dollars and still cannot find buyers. Neighborhoods that were celebrated as the future of American living are now defined by vacancy, silence, and mounting financial pressure on the owners who remain. Today, Expose the States breaks down the 10 Florida cities that are turning into ghost towns in 2026, backed by real inventory data, price decline figures, and days on market numbers that tell the full story of what is actually happening on the ground across the Sunshine State. This is not speculation. This is not opinion. This is what the data is showing right now, and the picture it paints is one that every homeowner, buyer, investor, and renter with any connection to Florida needs to understand. Stay with us until the end because the number one city on this list is the clearest and most alarming warning sign in Florida's entire housing market, and it affects far more people than most realize. And before we begin, if you want honest, data-driven reporting on America's housing markets every single week, subscribe to Expose the States right now and hit the bell so you never miss what we uncover next. Number 10. Panama City, Florida. Panama City's housing boom was built on a foundation that looked solid from the outside but was deeply vulnerable underneath. Between 2020 and 2022, median home prices surged roughly 68%, jumping from around $215,000 to nearly $360,000 in less than 30 months. Investors rushed in chasing vacation rental income, post-storm rebuild contracts, and the kind of fast appreciation that Florida was delivering seemingly everywhere during those years. By 2026, that momentum has reversed into a brutal and accelerating unwind. Active listings have exploded by more than 320%, transforming what was once a supply-starved market into one of Florida's most congested and competitive battlegrounds for sellers. Homes that sold for $330,000 to $350,000 during the peak are now routinely listed between $255,000 and $275,000, wiping out $70,000 to $90,000 in household equity that owners had counted on. Waterfront condos are seeing even sharper pain, with six-figure price cuts becoming increasingly common and still failing to draw serious offers from buyers who sense that prices have further to fall. Days on market now exceed 120 days on average compared to under 20 days during the height of the boom. Insurance premiums that once hovered near $6,500 annually now push past $9,000, while HOA fees continue climbing as condo associations struggle with rising maintenance and storm-related assessment costs. With nearly 8.5 months of inventory sitting unsold across the market, Panama City is no longer simply cooling. It is stuck in a grinding downward reset where sellers are forced to chase buyers lower week after week with no clear floor in sight. Number 9. Bradenton, Florida. Bradenton's rise during the pandemic era was fast, dramatic, and ultimately unsustainable. From 2019 through 2022, prices surged nearly 75%, climbing from roughly $240,000 to over $420,000 as buyers flooded in from Tampa, the Northeast, and the Midwest. Builders responded aggressively, delivering wave after wave of new subdivisions and condo developments into a market that appeared to have unlimited absorption capacity. By 2026, that construction surge has become a devastating liability. Active listings have ballooned more than 360%, overwhelming whatever demand remains and freezing transactions across the entire metro area. A 4-bedroom home that sold for $450,000 at the peak now struggles to attract offers above $365,000, erasing $85,000 in value that owners had built their financial plans around. Riverfront condos that once commanded significant premiums are being reduced by $50,000 to $80,000 and still sitting unsold for months at a time. Insurance costs have doubled since 2020, with many homeowners now paying $7,000 to $10,000 annually, a carrying cost that is making ownership economically irrational for a growing number of residents. HOA fees in newer communities regularly exceed $450 per month, compounding the affordability crisis from every direction. With inventory climbing to nearly 9 months, a level historically associated with prolonged and painful price declines, Bradenton's market is no longer driven by growth expectations. It is driven entirely by exit pressure as investors and stretched homeowners race to sell before prices fall even further. Number 8. Fort Myers, Florida. Fort Myers became one of Southwest Florida's defining boom markets during the pandemic era. Retirees, remote workers, and investors piled into Lee County at a pace that pushed median prices from around $235,000 in 2019 to just under $400,000 by 2022, a surge of nearly 70% in under 3 years. By 2026, that explosive growth has fully and painfully reversed. Active listings have surged close to 380%, flooding Lee County with unsold homes and stalled developments that builders cannot move regardless of incentives offered. A typical 3-bedroom home that sold for $370,000 during the frenzy now struggles to sell near $315,000, wiping out $55,000 in equity. Waterfront condos face even steeper declines, with $75,000 to $110,000 price cuts becoming routine rather than exceptional. Insurance has become the knockout blow for Fort Myers homeowners. Post-storm premiums now average $6,000 to $8,000 annually, while coastal properties face 5-figure insurance bills that make ownership financially unsustainable for many residents on fixed incomes. Property taxes near 2% and rising HOA assessments compound the damage month after month. Short-term rental returns have collapsed as supply overwhelms demand across the region, pushing rental rates down nearly 20% from their peak levels. With nearly 9 months of inventory sitting unsold, Fort Myers has shifted decisively from seller control to sustained buyer dominance, and prices continue drifting lower with no clear catalyst for stabilization. Number 7. Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville was the city that was supposed to be Florida's safe bet. A large and diversified population base, steady job growth, and relatively affordable housing by Florida standards made it a magnet for families, professionals, and investors seeking stability in a state known for volatility. Between 2019 and 2022, median home prices surged roughly 74%, climbing from approximately $215,000 to nearly $375,000. Remote workers poured in. Investors chased rental yields. And builders rushed to keep up with demand that appeared structural and permanent. By 2026, Jacksonville is no longer anyone's safe bet. Active listings have surged more than 280%, swelling from roughly 5,000 homes to over 19,000 across Duval County. The median home price has already fallen close to 8% year over year, with sharper and more concentrated drops in suburban neighborhoods that saw the most aggressive development during the boom years. A 4-bedroom home that sold for $400,000 at the peak now struggles to attract offers above $340,000, erasing $60,000 in household equity. Downtown condos near the St. Johns River are being reduced by $45,000 to $70,000 and still sitting unsold for months. Days on market have nearly tripled since 2021, and more than 1/3 of all active listings have already seen at least one price reduction. Insurance costs are accelerating the downturn, with average premiums now exceeding $5,200 annually, up more than 45% in just 5 years. For investors who view Jacksonville as the next great Florida rental hub, the reality of 2026 is stagnant rents, rising carrying costs, and a market that is offering no clear path to the returns that justified their original purchases. If this data-driven breakdown is giving you a clearer picture of what is truly happening across Florida's housing markets, make sure you are subscribed to Expose the States. We publish honest, detailed market analysis every single week. Number 6. Orlando, Florida. Orlando built its housing boom on a foundation that seemed uniquely stable: tourism, population growth, Disney employment, and relentless investor demand for short-term rental properties. Between 2019 and 2022, prices surged nearly 73%, rising from around $260,000 to close to $450,000 as the city attracted buyers and investors from across the country and around the world. By 2026, that foundation has proven far less stable than anyone anticipated. Inventory has surged more than 320%, climbing from roughly 4,000 homes to over 17,000 active listings across the metro. The median home price has already slipped back near $395,000, wiping out more than $55,000 in equity from peak levels for owners who purchased at the height of the frenzy. In neighborhoods like Lake Nona, three-bedroom homes once priced near $500,000 are now struggling to attract offers above $420,000. Condos near International Drive have fallen roughly 20%, dropping from $300,000 to around $240,000, and yet still linger unsold for 180 days or more as buyers wait for prices to fall further. More than 40% of listings across Orange County have already been reduced at least once. Carrying costs are accelerating the pain from every direction. Insurance premiums now average $6,200 annually, nearly 50% higher than just 4 years ago. HOA fees in newer developments frequently exceed $350 per month, pushing total monthly ownership costs well beyond what the market's remaining buyers can realistically afford. With nearly 9 months of inventory, Orlando is flipped from growth engine to pressure cooker, where sellers are forced to compete aggressively on price just to generate basic attention. Number 5. Palm Beach County, Florida. Palm Beach County once symbolized untouchable Florida wealth. The combination of genuine luxury, coastal beauty, and the perception that high-net-worth buyers would always sustain demand regardless of broader market conditions made it feel immune to the forces affecting lesser markets. From 2019 through 2022, median prices surged from roughly $330,000 to nearly $600,000, an increase approaching 82% driven by luxury demand, foreign capital, and the migration of wealthy buyers from high-tax northeastern states. By 2026, even Palm Beach County's immunity has expired. Inventory has surged over 320%, swelling from roughly 3,000 listings to more than 12,500 active properties competing for a dramatically reduced pool of qualified buyers. Middle-income homes that sold for $525,000 are now struggling near $430,000, wiping out close to $100,000 in equity. Luxury condos that once traded above $1.3 million are now relisted under $1 million and still sitting for 200 days or more. Insurance premiums now average $9,000 countywide, while coastal properties face $15,000 plus annual bills that are making ownership economically unsustainable even for buyers who can technically afford the purchase price. HOA fees in many towers exceed $1,200 per month after storm-related assessments that owners did not anticipate when they purchased. With nearly 10 months of inventory, Palm Beach County has entered a slow-motion unwind where even genuinely wealthy buyers are waiting on the sidelines for deeper price resets before committing. Number 4. Cape Coral, Florida. Cape Coral has gone from Florida's boating paradise to one of the most extreme and alarming examples of housing market excess anywhere in the United States. Between 2019 and 2022, home prices surged roughly 82%, climbing from approximately $230,000 to more than $420,000 as retirees, remote workers, and investors rushed into Southwest Florida convinced that demand would never slow. By 2026, that conviction has collapsed completely. In some zip codes across Cape Coral, active listings have surged over 900%, transforming quiet canal-lined streets into rows of unsold homes that sit month after month with no offers. Median prices have already slipped back toward $338,000, wiping out nearly $82,000 in equity from peak levels. Canal front homes that sold for $450,000 at the peak now sit unsold near $360,000 despite repeated and significant price reductions. Builders are offering $40,000 to $60,000 in incentives and still cannot move inventory into a market where buyers have largely disappeared. Insurance has turned ownership into a genuine financial burden, with post-storm premiums now exceeding $9,000 annually for standard properties and waterfront homes facing bills pushing beyond $12,000. With nearly 11 months of inventory citywide and more than 40% of all listings already reduced at least once, Cape Coral is no longer adjusting. It is unraveling into one of the most severe housing corrections in Florida's modern history, and the data provides no clear indication that the bottom has yet been reached. Number 3. Naples, Florida. Naples was sold to buyers and investors as Florida's ultimate luxury safe haven, a market backed by genuine wealth, true exclusivity, and a scarcity of supply that would protect values regardless of what happened in lesser markets across the state. From 2019 to 2022, prices surged nearly 86%, climbing from around $430,000 to over $800,000 as Wall Street money and high-net-worth buyers flooded the market with a confidence that felt unshakable at the time. By 2026, even Naples is bending under the weight of economic gravity. Inventory has surged roughly 250%, jumping from about 2,500 listings to more than 8,700 active properties. Million-dollar estates that once sold within days are now slashing $150,000 to $250,000 from their asking prices and still sitting for over 220 days. Condos along the Gulf that peaked near $1.1 million now linger closer to $875,000, erasing six figures in equity even at the very top end of the market. Carrying costs in Naples have reached staggering levels that are testing the limits of even genuinely wealthy owners. Insurance premiums now average between $12,000 and $15,000 annually, while waterfront estates face bills exceeding $25,000. HOA fees in luxury towers routinely surpass $1,800 per month after storm-related assessments. Seasonal rental demand has cooled sharply, with monthly rents dropping significantly from their peak levels. Naples has shifted from luxury fortress to oversupplied market, proving definitively that even the wealthiest segment of any housing market is not immune to the forces of supply, demand, and economic reality. Number 2. Miami, Florida. Miami has long been the symbol of Florida's real estate ambitions and the embodiment of everything that made the state's housing market feel special and permanent. Fueled by foreign capital, luxury branding, cryptocurrency money, and relentless speculative demand from buyers around the world, Miami attracted global attention and global investment throughout the pandemic boom in a way that no other American city could match. From 2019 to 2022, median condo prices surged roughly 77%, climbing from approximately $350,000 to over $620,000. Developers raced skyward, selling units off-plan to buyers who had never visited the city and promising endless appreciation to investors who treated Miami real estate as a guaranteed store of value. By 2026, that narrative has collapsed under the combined weight of oversupply, soaring ownership costs, and the retreat of the speculative capital that sustained the boom. Active listings have exploded by nearly 280%, swelling from approximately 7,000 to more than 27,000 units across the metro. One-bedroom condos that sold for $550,000 during the peak now sit near $438,000, erasing over $112,000 in value. Luxury waterfront units in areas like Sunny Isles are seeing cuts of $150,000 to $220,000 and still remain unsold for 200 days or more. Insurance has become a genuine breaking point for condo ownership viability across Miami. Annual premiums now exceed $10,000 for many owners, with some facing $18,000 bills after new assessments. HOA fees in luxury towers regularly surpass $1,500 per month. With nearly 11 months of inventory and nearly half of all active listings already reduced at least once, Miami is no longer just cooling. It is unwinding rapidly, and the process is far from complete. Number 1. Tampa, Florida. Tampa stands at the absolute epicenter of Florida's housing collapse in 2026. Once hailed across the country as the model of post-pandemic American growth, Tampa's transformation over the previous decade had attracted businesses, residents, and investment at a pace that felt not just sustainable but permanent. From 2019 to 2022, median home prices surged roughly 72%, climbing from approximately $250,000 to over $430,000. Migration was real. Job growth was real. Business relocations were real. And for a time, the optimism that drove prices to those levels felt entirely justified. By 2026, the reversal has been equally real and far more painful. Inventory has exploded nearly 400% in just a few years, swelling from around 4,500 homes to more than 22,000 active listings across the metro. The median home price has already slipped back near $378,000, erasing more than $52,000 in equity. Suburban homes that sold for $475,000 now sit unsold near $388,000. Downtown condos once trading at $600,000 have fallen toward $475,000, a correction approaching 21% that has devastated the financial positions of buyers who purchased near the peak. Nearly half of all listings across Hillsborough and Pinellas counties have already been reduced at least once. Insurance premiums now average $7,500 annually, with flood zone properties reaching 5 figures. Property taxes near 2% and HOA fees exceeding $400 per month are crushing affordability from every direction simultaneously. Builders are stuck with hundreds of unsold units, offering $30,000 discounts and mortgage buydowns just to move inventory into a market that has lost confidence entirely. Tampa has not just slowed down. It has flipped from the city that represented everything right about American real estate to the city that now represents everything that went wrong. It is the clearest and most complete warning sign in Florida's housing collapse. And in 2026, the correction is still unfolding. From Panama City to Tampa, Florida's housing market in 2026 tells a story that demands attention from anyone with financial exposure to American real estate. The cities that grew the fastest are correcting the hardest. The markets that felt the most permanent are proving the most fragile. And the combination of oversupply, soaring insurance costs, elevated borrowing rates, and retreating investor capital has created conditions that will take years, not months, to fully resolve. Florida was once held up as proof that American real estate had no limits. In 2026, it is proving the opposite. Every market has limits. And when those limits are exceeded, as they were so dramatically across the Sunshine State, the correction that follows is proportional to the excess that preceded it. If this analysis gave you a clearer and more honest picture of what is happening across Florida's housing markets right now, leave a comment below with your perspective. Share this video with anyone who has money, property, or plans tied to Florida real estate. Subscribe to Expose the States, because this story is not finished. The data will keep changing. The market will keep moving. And we will be here every single week to report exactly what is happening and what it means for you. We will see you in the next one.